American activities. He had served as the managing editor of the official communist newspaper, The Daily Worker, and had been a member of the party's national committee. Pudens later revealed that one of the government's most respected experts on China, Owen Lattimore, was a member of the Communist underground.
In this cell, there was also Owen J. Lattimore. This I know from reports received in the Politburo and given to me officially as managing editor of the Daily Worker.
Owen Lattimore was the man who was sent to China by President Roosevelt to serve as the official U.S. advisor to Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalist Chinese leader who then was struggling to prevent a communist takeover of his country. John Stuart Service was another State Department China expert who came under investigation. In 1945, Service was found responsible for transmitting hundreds of classified and top-secret documents to the staff of Amerasia magazine, a communist-controlled publication. There they were copied and transmitted to the Soviet Union. Service was reprimanded for indiscretion, but not released from employment. In fact, he was later promoted to head of the State Department's Information Service. The Senate Subcommittee on Investigations uncovered evidence of similar problems in the government printing office, where many classified documents are printed and distributed. Also in the Voice of America program, which was designed to reflect the American viewpoint through radio broadcasts in Europe. And in the American Overseas Libraries, which were part of the State Department program, supposedly to combat communist propaganda abroad. The CIA and its predecessor, the OSS, came into the spotlight on numerous occasions. In 1952, the head of the CIA, General Walter Bedell Smith, stated publicly that he was sure there were communist agents working inside his organization. No less than 3 defectors from the Soviet KGB have stated that this is so. They are Anatol Golitsyn, Yuri Nosenko, and Mikhail Golanevsky. Although their testimony has been clouded by controversy, the fact remains that there never has been an outside investigation of subversion in the CIA. The military is another critical branch of government that never has been investigated for possible communist penetration, even though there is evidence that serious problems may exist. In Italy, for example, in 1967, Giorgio Rinaldi confessed that he had been part of a Soviet underground operation involving 300 officers in NATO, some of whom were American military officers. In 1954, Lieutenant Colonel Yuri Rastorov of the Soviet Secret Police sought political asylum in the West. He had been the director of Soviet espionage operations in Tokyo. After coming to the United States, he revealed that he personally had worked with several members of the American Military Intelligence Service. In 1964, Swedish Air Force Colonel Stig Wennerstrom admitted that for 14 years, he had transmitted information to the Soviets regarding nuclear strike capabilities of NATO and the United States. When asked where he obtained this information, he replied that it was from the head of the American Intelligence Service at the Pentagon. Turning to the legislative branch of government, Senator Barry Goldwater in 1975 was interviewed on television and revealed that communists had infiltrated into the office staffs of as many as 9 members of Congress. This information, he said, came from the CIA commission of which Vice President Rockefeller was a member.
I was told when I was flying to the funeral of Chiang Kai-shek with Vice President Rockefeller that his committee had learned of instances where the offices of senators had been infiltrated by Soviet agents or Soviets or some sort. I said, "Are you going to publish that?" He said he would, but it was never published. I asked him once why it wasn't. He said, "I was requested not to publish it." Now that you've asked me, I'm going to...
It was never revealed who requested the Vice President not to release these findings. Infiltration into legislative staffs is a major accomplishment for the Soviets. But even more important is the placement of agents into the legislature itself, men who are legally elected to office. In 1961, the House Committee on Un-American Activities published a report entitled "The New Role of National Legislative Bodies in the Communist Conspiracy." This report revealed that a number of communists, posing as Republicans or Democrats, had been successfully elected to the state legislature of Washington, the Michigan Senate, and the United States Congress, and that the Communist Party had boasted of its role in helping to elect candidates in a number of states, including California, Ohio, New York, and Illinois. By the mid-1950s, the underground apparatus of the Communist Party was in serious trouble. The one thing a conspiracy cannot survive is exposure. Yet a steady stream of former communists and FBI undercover operatives gradually was exposing the entire operation to public view. This was accomplished primarily through congressional investigative committees, which put the testimony of these people into the public record. And one of the most important aspects of this history is the fact that even though the president and the heads of various government agencies repeatedly were informed by the FBI and given names with documented proof, almost never were these Soviet agents removed, and in fact, many of them were promoted until the investigative committees of Congress stepped in, made the information public, and created external pressure for action. As far as the communists were concerned, something had to be done to stop these committees, and it is the story of how they succeeded in that counterattack that we shall take up next.
There's no contest between Senator McCarthy and the Department of the Army. All that Senator McCarthy has been trying to do is expose the communists who have infiltrated the Department of the Army.
The late Senator Joseph McCarthy, in the minds of many, has become the symbol of anti-communism in America. His detractors have used the word McCarthyism to mean political hysteria and lack of concern for the rights and reputations of innocent people. His defenders view him as the fallen warrior against the hordes of pro-communists in both government and the press. It's not our purpose here to retell the McCarthy saga, but it is important to observe in passing that McCarthy's critics seldom have challenged his basic facts, choosing instead to condemn him on questions of personal style. When he claimed to possess the names of 205 security risks in the State Department, no one denied that such people were on the payroll, but they attacked him because he was not always consistent with the number of names on his list. When he said that there were pro-communist books in the overseas library program, there was no question of it, but he was condemned instead for book burning. No one denied his claim that security risks were employed at the secret testing laboratories at Fort Monmouth, but they criticized him for obtaining this information from a document he was not authorized to have. And when he charged that General Ralph Zwicker had protected and promoted a known communist in the military, his facts were never challenged. He was attacked instead for losing his temper and speaking harshly to a brigadier general.
You hear all this talk about Senator McCarthy's methods, usually in a derogatory sense, like people saying, well, I agreed with his fight against communism and his goals, but I didn't agree with his methods.
In 1951, Roy Cohn had served as the assistant federal prosecutor in the trial of atomic bomb spies Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. But from 1953 to 1955, he was the chief counsel for the Senate Subcommittee on Investigations, of which Senator McCarthy